Welcome to another episode of Waracle Talks. Today we welcome John McCafferty here to talk about his career in digital and technology, speak about the pensions market, and one of our biggest clients, the People's Partnership. Welcome, John.
Hi, Blair.
Today, we're going to have a few questions. We're going to have a bit of a dynamic backwards and forwards about your experience, about the pensions market, and we're going to get at it by asking you to give us a bit of a career background, what you've been up to over maybe the last 8, 10, 12 years, and what gets you up in the morning when you think about digital product development.
So background, I went to uni in Scotland, went to Stirling Uni, and I studied business and marketing. Out of that, my first job was in a bit of a kind of niche industry. It was actually in the veterinary ultrasound and X-ray industry.
There you go.
Where I worked in marketing, started off there, moved into kind of digital marketing. At that point, we started, it was at kind of the start of more website, digital marketing things that were going on, and I kind of led a project for that company to deliver this new international website in different languages and stuff, and that was my first kind of digital project management role.
Amazing.
And it was cool because I obviously was on the client side and I was working with another consultancy. We're based in Glasgow, and that was where I got to go and visit their offices, and it was a bit quite a different culture from they were a lovely company, but obviously they were based in an industrial estate in Bells Hill, which is a wee bit different from the sort of city centre, Glasgow, agency vibes.
Amazing.
So I worked for that company for quite a number of years actually, and then I wanted, after that project, because I had a little taste of consultancies or agencies, I was like, oh, that's maybe where I want to see my career going. So I took a role actually down in Manchester was my next one. So I moved away from Scotland and down to there, and I worked for a consultancy called ET Creative. They were owned by Gary Neville at the time. It was a foray into business after he finished football. And then they were bought over by another consultancy called Det, who are kind of head office in Amsterdam, quite a big organisation. So I worked for them for a few years, and that was like delivering different digital projects and for different clients. And obviously when Det bought them over, it was starting to kind of get a lot bigger clients across different kind of industries. And following that, actually took the decision that I went and done a lot of travelling. So I wanted to be a bit more experience in the world and moved over to New Zealand.
Brilliant.
And then I worked for some consultancies over in New Zealand as well, all doing kind of similar type work. It was all kind of helping businesses scale, helping them improve their technologies and deliver on their products.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool to see it from obviously literally the other side of the world and some different perspectives and things. And after that, and after COVID and things, which I spent actually over in New Zealand, which was quite a different experience than it was over in the UK. Finally made my way back to Scotland and settled down here and joined Waracle about 4 years ago now. And started off working in delivery. So my background has been delivery, and my career's kind of moved towards more of the client sort of facing role and client relationships management.
Amazing.
And that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years.
Incredible. And so it's quite, I suppose, an unusual sort of path to go from sort of a business degree and a sort of marketing specialism out through into the world of delivery. And then now, I suppose, you're sort of traversing back out of that into a sort of more demand function, leaning towards clients. What was it that took you into delivery in the first place, I suppose, and what do you feel like's pulling you back out into the world of clients?
It's a good question. I think personally that's the interesting thing about careers and maybe the way that it's changed as well. I think maybe back in the day, people would probably choose their career pretty early on, and they would go to uni to study a specific thing, and then that would be them maybe for their whole lives.
Yep.
I certainly didn't have a clear vision about what I wanted to do when I was younger, and I wanted to try different things. I think the reason I ended up in marketing was because it was kind of relatable, like I understood business and marketing.
Yeah.
I think what brought me to delivery was more like I liked the idea of like problem solving and adding value. But you could articulate a challenge, and you could see how you could bring a team together to try and deliver something. You saw something at the end of it, and you launched a product. And I like the excitement of working in a team on something. I think around the client side, where maybe where I moved into that is maybe more around my kind of natural, like how I gravitate. I think that I really enjoy working with people and working with different teams, and I really enjoy building relationships with clients and kind of like obviously when things are going great, it's brilliant to be in and yet everybody's celebrating successes. I also enjoy the parts of maybe when things aren't as brilliant and there's some kind of challenge there about trying to get to the understanding of that, and good listening, good questions, so that you can kind of unpick it a little bit and sort of say, well, you can see the like a tangible sort of benefit that you've actually done, that you spent your time on.
Totally. And I suppose that the seeing both sides of the coin and being able to be empathetic of your delivery partners and your sort of deep SMEs and experts on the technical side of things, and being understanding of what it takes to deliver a project ultimately will make you a better commercial custodian and a better client custodian, because you understand the intricacies of the actual delivery of the work.
Totally. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think it's because you've maybe experienced some of the pitfalls and things that you've felt the pain of sometimes when things maybe haven't been like set up for the success from the start.
Yeah.
You kind of you learn from those, and you think maybe your perspective or your analytical skills need to sort of like be dialed up a little bit. So when you're looking at it from a kind of commercial and client facing side, I think that you're able sometimes to spot those things, and even if you're not necessarily now getting into the detail and the depths of every single problem, it helps you even when you're working with delivery people also, and that you're able to really quickly like speak to the same language.
Yeah.
And even with a lot of our clients, obviously, are delivery focused as well, so I think it kind of helps from that perspective too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So recent times, I'm thinking about the last year, you've been kind of really deeply working with the People's Partnership, who are one of our clients. And I just wondered if you could sort of frame out a little bit about who People's Partnership are as a business and what we've been helping them with in terms of our consultancy and engagement with them.
Totally, yeah. So, People's Partnership, they're a pensions company, but a pretty big one. I think they're now at the stage they've got 7 million members. I think it's 1 in 5 in the UK save with them. So it's kind of serious company. They have grown a lot, but they've got big ambitions to grow further. They're also like they're a not-for-profit as well, so they've got a pretty clear kind of purpose, which is cool, that they don't divvy their profits out to shareholders, which obviously many companies do. They kind of reinvest that back into the business and back kind of hits members as well. So they're kind of cool story from that, and that's an enjoyable space to work in too. But they're also like, they're not they're at the same time as being not profit, they're still very kind of ambitious in terms of their growth. Like there's been lots of changes in the market, and they want to grow to an even bigger pension company they are just now. But it's cool that they're not just doing it to make more money. It's because they feel like they can actually make a difference for their members, which is, and that's all helping them build better financial foundations.
And it helps, I suppose, because it means that we align on our kind of values and principles as two separate organizations, but working towards the same goal, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And so in terms of the actual work that we are delivering for them, what sort of skill sets have we put into their business? What digital products have we built for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started working with them, probably about 3 years something ago now. At the time they didn't have an app, so they were their main digital product was their member portal, which they still have just now, but there was a big kind of gap in their offering, the fact that they didn't have an app, which a lot of their competitors had. Of course. So they had a pretty clear and understandable use case. They were like, we don't have an app, we want an app. And so we kind of engaged with them to try and help them articulate and understand, well, what is it that we want the app to do, and what should it do now, what should it do first, and then what can it do sort of long term. So we helped them with a bit of a discovery process, and that when it ended up getting into like a prototype, so a kind of clickable prototype, which went to senior stakeholders on the board for kind of approval, and you could basically allow them to click through in their actual phones and see, you could see it come to life basically. We also we were responsible for the design of that as well. So it was when it was discovery, we actually put it together with their designers too. So taking their brand identity and putting that into like the kind of how the app can be visualized. And just obviously, as you see it now, it's a nice looking app, and it functions really well. It's got good UX. So that turned into a project to build an MVP basically. So the main purpose of the MVP was to allow members to log in to view their pensions, and it was things like viewing their transactions, viewing their balance, and then there was other kind of things around like certain financial content and things like learn and content that was in the app as well. So the MVP took about 6 months something to build it, and that was end to end, so including the build. It all went through pen test, went through obviously all the QA testing and things, and went live. And that was would have been May 2023, I think it was. And it's kind of went from strength to strength to there. So from then we've been building on the product roadmap for the app. Since Waracle and People's Partnership, we created a very strong and healthy partnership around the app. And I think in terms of Waracle's ways of working and culture, it fitted really well with the way that People's Partnership also like to work. And there was a lot of positive stories and success around like how well that project went. The fact that we were on time, it was really good quality, got great feedback. So that then led to other kind of conversations around, well, where else could maybe Waracle help People's Partnership, and since then we've started helping them more around the member portal space, and also a pretty large IT modernization program which we're working on just now.
It's incredible. It's I always think it's fascinating to hear people talk about the sort of depth of the work that we're doing, but equally the sort of importance of the understanding of our partners' organizations, because inevitably, to be good custodians of their brand and of their business and of their digital products, we have to really be deeply embedded in their space. When you think about, pensions challenges a little while ago were that people didn't have workplace pensions, and obviously we tried to address that at a systems level to try and make sure that people were being given workplace pensions, were contributing to workplace pensions, and we're starting to actively think about later life savings. There's still many challenges facing the sort of pensions and later life savings sector. From your perspective, having worked with the People's Partnership, where do you see some of those big challenges being?
Yeah, I think I can empathise with it like greatly, because like I was probably one of those people that was pretty disadvantaged with their pension, probably like many people. Like when I was younger, I think it was always my dad was always like he worked for the kind of government like council, and he was always like, make sure you've got a pension. But it was always that, make sure you've got a pension. It wasn't really any massively like sophisticated like conversations around how much you should be contributing to your pension. Just have you got one?
Yeah.
So I always made sure I got one, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But then when I got to probably approaching maybe early 30s, it would have been actually where are all my pensions? Like, and I'm in those places where you get multiple pots, so then you go through the process of consolidating them. And then you're at then having conversations around, well, how much should I actually be contributing? What's that going to mean for me when I retire?
Yeah.
So I think I was probably then became engaged in it, and I'm much more engaged in my pension now.
Yeah.
Part of that was actually the app project, because I knew I was having to look at a pension app pretty much every day. So obviously it's hard to avoid.
Yeah.
But I think that challenge of what I'm trying to articulate for me, and that's obviously I'm someone that works in a technology space, and I still was fairly disengaged with pensions. I think if you think about that compared to so many parts of the population that are not in a similar space, that I'll be very like disengaged and low literacy with in terms of like financial education and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the big challenges that got people view their pension as a complicated kind of space.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't really get it. They don't understand like contributions. They don't understand like how that compound interest, things like that. So the challenge is that they've got many people that are not really set up to like for retirement, to have a kind of comfortable retirement.
I remember a long time ago now, probably like 8-9 years ago, I worked for a pensions company, and they told me some heartbreaking stories about some of the marketing team had to go out and do road shows. And they said that like lots of times at road shows, they would get couples coming up to them and saying like, oh, we're hitting near retirement age. We're super excited about retiring. Can we organise a meeting to have a chat with someone to look at our retirement pots? And so often the story was, tiny retirement pot, you're not going to be retiring anytime soon. This needed addressed 20 years ago type thing. And you realise that is just like less so about engagement's a big problem, but that's like an education issue to a certain extent.
Totally.
Because, to your point, everyone tells you that you need a pension, but no one tells you how big your pension pot needs to be, like how compound interest will feed into that, how like risk tolerances will feed into that, about how like distribution of assets and asset allocations will feed into that. And so there's probably like a bigger sort of more societal focused question, which is like, you know, about addressing financial education at a much younger age that will help us have a better later life savings pot.
So yeah, and I think the hope is that it takes the pressure off you when you get to the kind of critical years. Like, so I'm at an age now where I've got like a child, and you've got other financial sort of pressures as well. You're
For sure.
pay off things like your mortgage. You're looking at other kind of ISAs and things like that. So having to play catch up in your pension is like, I'm not too bad there. I'm much better. But many people won't engage with their pensions until they get much closer to retirement age, and then sometimes it's quite late to be trying to recover it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like that's what people's partnership, a big thing about the purpose and mission is. It's all about trying to help people basically to prepare themselves better, to avoid like which are ultimately pretty bleak situations for some people, which I think is a kind of mission I really like empathize with.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's interesting as well in the financial services space. There's always been this kind of tension between what information you can pass out, which constitutes advice, versus what information you can pass out, which constitutes guidance. And I suppose that for a lot of organizations, you know, an IFA can give you advice, you know, a pensions provider can give you guidance, you know, like, and guidance can be framing and sort of like a gentle sort of nudge in the right direction, but it can't be an overt nudge in the right direction. And that like throws in an interesting question about the roles and responsibilities of these types of organizations to help people essentially do the one thing that will help them in later life, which is probably contribute more to their pension. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, we were running a pensions event a couple of weeks ago, and one of the chaps who was an attendee at the event had been in pensions for 30 years, and he said, engagement's always been the biggest problem. For 30 years, for my whole career, engagement's been the problem. All you really want to do is get people to contribute more to their pensions. But as you so articulately mentioned, like, life gets in the way. Mm-hmm. You know, you have, you know, house moves and, you know, children's expenses, and you have like, you know, big life moments, and all of these things play sort of an intricate part that weaves into how you think about later life. When you think about sort of like onboarding and digital toolkits, can you see how digital toolkits maybe will change and morph as they have to do more of a role in kind of education and guidance going forward?
Yeah, well, I think that the challenge is definitely there around engagement, and I think it's heading in the right direction. Like, I can't imagine what it was like 30 years ago in terms of the complexity that was involved with it. I think with the trend that I see, and around, not just in the kind of pension space, but most things, it's around how things can be simplified.
Yeah.
And I think because of the market that where the biggest issue is around people that are like really disengaged with their pensions, it's trying to, how do we simplify these concepts that maybe they're not too familiar with into something that they can engage with and get started. And that's where I think with the member app, which was something that was a kind of a cool idea, was that young people maybe that wouldn't necessarily like know how to engage with a pension, want to go through the process of like get through paper documents to access an account and things like that. The fact that they can just get it on their phones, and it's something like, you know, with younger generations, everything needs to be distilled down, simple, easy to engage with. Yeah. And obviously getting something on an app really kind of helps. But I think that's where I see the things going with the pension space. It's how do we simplify these concepts and like to try and take away a lot of the jargon that I think does just naturally just disengage people, like the fact that for a lot of pension organizations, they've got so many large teams with like and legal and compliance and things like that. So how do you take that and make it to something that's like friendly and engaging, and that you can kind of, I don't know if you'll ever enjoy dealing with your pension, but like that you can actually, it's not as a terrible experience or like a daunting experience as maybe what many people feel like it is just now.
I'm sure you feel the same, but I think I got my first pension at 27, which, like, my dad was appalled that it was so late. And it was like I sat down with, you know, like an appointed IFA, and they laid out like 10 different dossiers on the table, and they had all this like paperwork and these like projections and like all these sort of risk tolerances. And I was just like, what does everyone else do? And they were like 3% on average. I was like, 3%, yeah. Sign it up, absolutely. You know, but no one actually explains. And I was reading a piece of insight a few weeks ago excuse me, I think it was by Rathbones, and it was saying that like for someone of my generation to retire at 65, you'll have to have 1.7 million in your pension pot. Now, it like sounds terrifying because it's like I'm only 1.68 or something like that off that pot. But it's like,
I thought you meant that's what you actually had. So I thought,
oh no, that's how
No,
far
right,
off
yeah,
I
yeah,
am.
okay.
So like my thinking was like it sounds like a huge number, but if you don't understand compound interest and you don't understand that like if you've still got, you know, say 35 years until you hit 65, if you invert the compound interest, then maybe that's a pension pot of actual money that you put in. It's maybe say 400,000 or something
Yeah.
along those lines, maybe 600,000. And then you can work out what that means. But one of the things that it said was that like for Gen Zs that to hit their pension pot by 65, they'll need to be putting 20 to 25% of their salary into their pension. And it's like, that conversation needs to be had in plain English.
Yep.
It needs to be in simple mathematics,
Yep.
and it needs to paint a picture of what it means to save for later life. Because ultimately, if you're not saving for later life, you are prioritizing the now, which is fine. Everyone prioritizes the now, but there needs to be like some kind of like understandable conversation of like what happens between 35-year-old you and 70-year-old you, right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you can no longer live in the house that you love living in, and you can no longer afford the things that you love doing.
Totally, yeah. And that sometimes that's an uncomfortable conversation to have.
For sure.
So I think it's like the emphasis on how you can visualize that and can kind of help maybe people feel it, because it's the hard thing to do is to make the sacrifices now, because you're not getting any better. You're just feeling the pain of, oh, now I've got £200 less in my account this month than I would have had. And actually, I was wanting to spend that, put it in your holiday fund, or I was wanting to spend it on social things. And so there is sacrifices with it, but it's like, yeah, hopefully there's maybe opportunities for people to kind of feel the benefits of that, and well, maybe with those visualizations and maybe ways for pension companies to help people feel that they're progressing towards like a goal and they see it coming, maybe makes that kind of a bit of a lesser impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also there's like, I would say that there's definitely sort of a divide in terms of how certain organizations serve their employee base versus other ones. In terms of like, I've always felt like with Waracle, there's regular available meetings with an IFA, there's regular updates via the app with our pension provider, but there's also like, you know, a whole bunch of information that you can access via some of our employee tools. And you do worry, I suppose, about organizations that have just ticked a box and actually working people who don't know, one, how much is in their pension pot, two, what risk tolerances they've put in, what it might be worth in the future. You really do realize that those are the people that you need to kind of usher into a world of guidance and advice so that they can help make better decisions for their own future.
Yeah. And I think that the hope is that it becomes kind of self-directed as well. So I think that the hope is that you get kind of regular engagement with your pension. Like, it's probably a wee bit more back in the day. Maybe for a lot of companies still now, people wouldn't engage with their pension until maybe you get an annual review or an annual statement. You might get someone coming in, like an advisor, that will come in and kind of help you try and understand how your pension is going. I think the fact that you need to have someone come in and have a meeting with you to explain like what your pension is and how much is in it and stuff probably says a lot about maybe how like simplified and accessible some of the information on there is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So not to disparage against advisors, of course, I'm sure that they're like...
Well, I suppose this is the interesting part as well, because we have worked with quite a number of pensions companies, and a lot of people in our organization are pensions experts. But I think a lot of digital development in the pension space is about sort of tooling up IFAs so that the IFA experience is more engaging for both parties as well, so that there's an exchange of information, it's backed by data, that it's got engaging platforms to engage with and whatnot. Because I suppose that the difficulty is that you get the experience that I had in 2008 or whatever it was, where someone lays out a desk full of table and you can immediately switch yourself off at that point, right?
Yeah, and it's really intimidating, especially when there's lots of especially when you do think about the projections and stuff, and you think, well, if I get this percentage, it's gone here, and you get a different one, like that. That's a lot of responsibility, and especially if it is younger people that's doing it. And
when you look forward to 2026 and you're thinking about the sort of development of our relationship with the People's Partnership as a business, and your role is kind of taking us forward on that, what are you excited about trying to work on, trying to achieve alongside our partners within the company?
So I think, so as I was saying before, that People's Partnership they're an ambitious client. Like, they want to grow a lot and grow their members, kind of base even further, and obviously increase the engagement with those members too. Like the member app, although we launched it obviously over a year ago now, it's still kind of early days in terms of the functionality that's still in there. So there's a lot of growth in terms of that space, in terms of making the app. I think the ambition is to make it the kind of primary interface for members. So it'd be really cool to see more like engaging, like end-to-end journeys getting into the app, and that Waracle are so pivotal to that, because for the app we're involved in all stages, through like the discovery, from the design through the development of it and the testing. So and it's really where I think Waracle, where we do our best work, and we've got a really like brilliant team on that app. So it'd be cool to see just so many new features getting released there, and seeing the kind of results of that. Equally, obviously, on the other side of things, they're releasing loads more projects on the member portal, which will be really cool to see our team like be involved in that, and launch more stuff. And then last one, that there's an IT modernization program going on just now, which is a lot of work going on around kind of things like reducing their tech debt and looking at more efficient ways of working. For example, like reorganizing their kind of architecture and things like that to be better set up their teams for success, and can allow them to scale a bit faster. So there's been a lot of consultancy we've been doing about kind of analysing what's the challenges just now, and maybe what a more efficient operating model could be long term. And it's a pretty long program of work, and we're already starting to kind of like actually implement some of the improvements just now. But it'll be cool to see like that whole engineering function, and not just engineering, the whole operating function really be like powered to deliver like even faster and more agile. Obviously the industry itself has been through a lot of change, so the company know that they need to be able to respond and adjust. So the fact that Waracle is so playing a really pivotal part in helping set them up for success is really cool to see.
That's absolutely amazing. We close off these conversations with a similar question every time. One about, I suppose, career development, and about personal development for the next generation of people that will work in tech consultancies. You've had a fascinating background in terms of your own career. If a young person was like looking to come in and either take a delivery role, or looking to come in and, you know, explore a tech consultancy and move into a more commercial role, what sort of advice would you offer up to someone that was maybe just coming out of school or just coming out of university looking to work for a business like ours?
Probably the biggest advice would be to just try and embrace the kind of learning opportunities that will naturally come as you move into working for a business. Like, I think now I benefit from a pretty broad range of experiences. Obviously working in marketing, but even when I was doing that, I was working in loads of different areas of marketing as well, and then working for different types of consultancies in different roles. I think when you then move into a client role, having those experiences just help you relate to different problems and different people in a kind of more comprehensive way. So I think, and based on my own experience as well, I don't think you need to have a clear idea really early on of what you want to do. I think it's like you need to encourage people to kind of learn maybe what your natural strengths are, and try and kind of develop them even further. But sometimes it's like a case of also just learning about your weaknesses as well, maybe where you don't want to fit. And then just kind of think about how you can add value and have impact. I think I've always looked at that in my own career, that you don't need to necessarily know what you're going to do in 10 years time. I think it needs to be about, are you delivering value just now? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you engaged with what you're working on? And then just kind of seeing where it takes you. And I think if you do good work and you're engaged and adding value all the time, then it will take you in a good direction.
100%. Great advice. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat to me today.
It's a pleasure.